We've seen some great subscriber growth through NFL Free Agency and also our March Madness coverage as well. If you haven't already, hit that sub button for me. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. 153 subs away from our next milestone. I can pretty much guarantee there will be at least 153 people who are not subscribed that are watching the show right now. So if that's you, change it. Hit that sub button right now. The probably most notable NFL free agent left unsigned is Aaron Rodgers. The Giants, Steelers, maybe the Vikings, we'll talk about that, continue to wait on a decision from Aaron Rodgers. Sports Illustrated, the Steelers subsite for them, reports that the Steelers and Rodgers have now spoken for the first time in days. That for the past several days, there has been no communication from Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers, and I assume that the Giants are part of that conversation as well, and that the details aren't really known, but they've at least resumed communication, which is kind of insane to me, that the quarterback doesn't have a team picked out when he's got off. Like, that's very unusual, but it's Rodgers. It's all unusual in the end. The Giants, meanwhile, the other top contender for Rodgers at the moment, have a ton of interest. NFL Network reports that they are comfortable with a potentially prolonged wait for Aaron Rodgers. But in the meantime, the Giants have indeed continued to pursue or at least explore alternative options. They've brought in several quarterbacks for visits. Joe Flacco, which screams backup QB if they draft a youngster in round one. Jameis Winston, who could probably be a bit of both. He wouldn't preclude the Giants from drafting somebody, but if you had to, you could toss him out there and let Malik Neighbors go for 1,300 yards and 9 scores as Winston puts up a 30-30 campaign, but it'd be entertaining. And then Russell Wilson, who is very much, I think, the alternative for both Pittsburgh and New York to Aaron Rodgers, as Russ kind of continues to wait from that. Now, of note, the Vikings. Maybe interest. There's kind of conflicting reports about how interested the Vikings actually are, and maybe they haven't given Rodgers a firm no, or it was a check back later, and that could fit in with the current report speculation that Rodgers might wait until the draft, which is insane to me. But I think Rodgers wants to be a Viking, but there has been no done deal, which makes me wonder if the Vikings have any true interest in Aaron Rodgers. I think there are 4 viable options right now, barring a surprise emergence from like Tennessee or something. The Giants, the Vikings, Steelers, or retirement. I don't think also can be ruled out quite yet. So, where will Aaron Rodgers end up signing? G for the Giants, V for the Vikings, S for the Steelers, and R for he elects to retire. It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, Ian Rapoport, and I don't know if this was like really in-depth reporting or just like kind of more speculation because it's Rodgers. He said that Rodgers could elect to wait until after the NFL draft to make a decision. And honestly, that is wild to me. That is so wild. Even for Rodgers, which there's always something with him. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, sometimes just attention worthy. But that I just don't get it. Like, if you're the Giants or the Steelers, can you afford to wait? Because if he's really trying to wait, what say he just signs with you or signs anywhere? You can't be left with no quarterback option. Like, at some point, you have to have a deadline of, we got to make a decision here. And if we miss out, so be it. We got to pivot to Russ or to a draft pick and go trade up or do something there. I also question, does this actually benefit Aaron Rodgers at all? Does waiting another month and change to pick your team actually help you out? Continues to delay your status of learning the offense. Not that it's going to be an issue for him, but that's less time that you have to get up to speed. You potentially actually eliminate your destinations. Like if the Giants get antsy and somehow overpay to get to 2 or 1 or whatever, which may or may not happen, I'll talk about Cam Ward in a little bit here, that's one option down. And Pittsburgh just says, F it, we're going to bring back Russ. Well, then now where are you going? The quarterback market all kind of waits on Rodgers right now because Russ is clearly, from the way the NFL has handled things, Giants and Pittsburgh, that's the number 2 option for both teams. The Browns lurk and linger as a Russell Wilson option, and maybe one of those where Russ wants Pittsburgh or New York, and if he misses out on both somehow, then he goes to Cleveland or whatever. Jameis Winston kind of stuck in a holding pattern until the top two guys go, and he has to settle for a backup spot, or one comes open as a starter. And then Flacco kind of in the backup range, and then Drew Lock is a backup somewhere at some point, I suppose, this year, although I don't think the NFL is quite high on Lock at this time. Now, you can get NFL jerseys for your favorite team and player, all of them including Marvin Harrison Jr. now available, over at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. We'll put that link in both the comment section and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Men's and women's are also available. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Let's go to Trey Hendrickson here. The Bengals got deals done, officially announced today with a press conference and everything, with both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And they want the same with Trey Hendrickson. That does not mean it'll happen, but I think there's a lot more optimism for the Bengals than there was, right after he was granted permission to seek a trade. Near as I can gather, and from what the reporting has been, sounds like Hendrickson's camp said, we can get the contract we want and fetch you a first-round pick back. And the Bengals said, okay. And then Hendrickson's camp said, actually, we can't get you a first-round pick or close to it. And they said, okay. And now with more cap space freed up by paying Higgins and Chase, they're kind of back negotiating again. What that number looks like, I don't know. There's a pretty big gap right now between Nick Bosa at number 3 and Josh Hines-Allen at number 4. A $34 versus $28.25 million per year difference. That's sizable. And we're approaching $6 million per year there. My guess is somewhere between those two figures is where Hendrickson ends up slotting in. He's not going to get 40 at his age. I don't know if he's going to get to 35 like he probably wants either. But if the Bengals can guarantee a bit more of the lifetime of the contract, maybe they end up finding a way to get things done. And they certainly have the money available. They're not paying anybody, really, especially with the way the salary cap's gone up. And they don't have viable alternatives at edge rusher. Myles Murphy's been a non-factor so far. Cam Sample is coming off injury, is like a rotational piece at best. Joseph Asai is not a number 1 and might not be a number 2 edge either. The defense, which is bad, cannot afford to lose Hendrickson without a real alternative plan in place, which so far I haven't seen. So predictions. What will the Bengals do with Trey Hendrickson? T for they trade him. P for they pay him. Or N for they do nothing and they just let things ride out. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, Cam Ward. ESPN reports the Titans are both comfortable with Cam Ward and the Giants' trade-up efforts appear to be dead. Now, the last one came from Jordan Renan, the Giants reporter. The first part came from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Here's what he reported. From what I gather, they seem pretty comfortable with Cam Ward. There's some momentum there. With other teams I've talked to league-wide that feel like they're just going to sit there and take Ward. I know the interviews with Ward have gone well. They feel comfortable with the mistakes he made on the field. They feel like he's done a good job explaining those and be coached and can correct them. He's got obvious upside on top of that. So you equal all that out, sense a little momentum for the Titans to sit put. Now, the Titans quarterback room is not good right now. It's simply not. It's Will Levis and Brandon Allen. And the signing of Brandon Allen was okay, that's not a real option for anything resembling a starting situation. It's just not. So with Tennessee having no real interest in adding a QB of note right now, and knowing they cannot run it back with Will Levis and no other alternatives, it certainly feels like it's Cam Ward, right? That's the plan for Tennessee. He had a great year for Miami. There are some gunslinger tendencies that I think Fowler kind of mentioned with some of the mistakes on the field that I do think are valid red flags. But in a bad quarterback class, seems like he's pretty close, emphasize on close, to the consensus number 1 QB. So what is the percent chance the Titans end up drafting Cam Ward at number 1 overall? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let's move to some recent free agency signings, rapid fire on our NFL free agency tracker. Juan Thornhill, love him. Always been a fan of his game. Love might be a bit strong, but whatever. 1-year deal with Pittsburgh to provide some safety depth. Jay Tufele re-signing with the Jets on what I assume is a vet minimum contract. Isaiah Loudermilk, the Steelers defensive lineman. Again, no details on that. We're kind of in the cheap guy sign, so we don't get the details for a week stage of free agency. Teron Neal, who kind of got some corner, safety, special teams ability. 2-year deal with San Francisco. Speaking of special teams, Travis Homer, a 1-year, $2 million deal. To go back to the Bears, Lane Johnson, an extension for an extra year with Philadelphia, now under contract through 2027. Jeffrey Okudah, a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Vikings, the former top 5 pick, trying to kind of rehab his stock a little bit there. Victor Dimukeje, one of those two, with the Giants, kind of a buy low. Maybe this year it'll be different signing at edge or as an edge rusher. David Moore, back with the Carolina Panthers. That's probably going to be a cheap 1-year deal. Garrett Bradbury, who had been cut by the Vikings, has signed a 2-year, $12 million deal. Only $3.8 million guaranteed. So that is very much kind of more of a, close to probably like a 1-year 4, 1-year 5 team option for year 2, basically given that amount of limited guaranteed funds there for Garrett Bradbury to give them a viable option at center, even though he's like an okay center. Doug Kramer, back with the Bears on a 1-year deal. Backup offensive tackle Landon Young is back with the Saints. I would assume a 1-year deal there. Nate Landman, not the TV series, a 1-year deal with the LA Rams as well. Not a ton of moves, but some ones I at least wanted to make mention of.